Today we are going to watch the creepiest animated stories that are based on real, terrifying incidents. I'm very glad you are here to join me because some of these stories are just creepy and weird, and others are absolutely horrifying, and I truly can't watch them alone. So before we get into it, like and subscribe and let's watch Peonies.
This woman murdered 650 girls and bathed in their blood. Elizabeth Bathory was one of the most sadistic serial killers of all time. Between 1590 and 1610, girls began disappearing, hundreds of them. She would lure them in with promises of work and then drag them into stone chambers, and they were never seen again. Witnesses said she drove needles under their fingernails, carved open their skin with scissors, and bit chunks of flesh from their faces. Some were stripped naked, beaten until their bones cracked, and then left to freeze in the snow, while she watched from a window, smiling. Others were smeared in honey and tied to trees, devoured alive by insects. She reportedly laughed as her victims screamed. According to servants, she believed that bathing in a virgin's blood could keep her young forever. So she drained the blood from them one by one and bathed in their blood. But when noble girls started vanishing, even the king took notice. Over 300 witnesses came forward, claiming she'd murdered as many as 650 girls. Her accomplices were executed, but Elizabeth was too powerful for trial. She was sealed alive behind a wall in her own castle. No light, no exit, just a slot for food. She eventually died in that room slowly. Whether legend or truth, one thing is for sure. She was one of the most sadistic monsters history has ever known.
This woman is horrifying, and I'm glad she at least received some type of punishment and didn't fully get away with her crime completely. But imagine killing over 600 people and just being locked behind your own wall. That is crazy to me. But let's move on to the next story. This story is about a girl who is out at night when she absolutely shouldn't be, and then something very bad happens to her, so let's watch.
This is why you should never walk home alone at night. One night, a girl was at a nightclub with her friends. They were drinking and dancing the entire night. Her and her friends decided to leave at around 3 a.m., so she said goodbye and began to go home. But she couldn't find a taxi, so she decided to walk home. As she was walking, it was pitch dark out, and she thought she heard something moving in the bushes, so she began to walk faster. Suddenly, a man jumped out from behind a bush and blocked her path. His face was hideous. She tried to run, but he cornered her and grabbed her arms. The girl was screaming for her life and begging him to let her go. But the man's deformed face twisted into a creepy grin. The man then said to her, "Do you want death or smiley face?" She cried out, "Please just let me go," but the man said death or smiley face again. The girl didn't know what he meant, so she replied smiley face. The man then pulled out a knife and sliced the corners of her mouth all the way up to her ears. Now she had the same deformed smile as the man.
The man or thing is extremely creepy. Just telling her to smile and then giving her one, she was terrified, and it is so disturbing. And she now looks very creepy, and she will never have her face back to normal again. I honestly do feel bad for her. Alright, now the next short is a story of a girl who loved to dance, but a sickness sadly held her back. And what happened next was truly sad and shocking. Let's watch.
This might be one of the most terrifying stories you will ever hear. There was a girl who was very good at dancing, and her mom was extremely proud of her and had big plans for her future. But those plans were shattered when her daughter got diagnosed with terminal cancer and had less than a year to live. As the months went by, the girl's condition began to worsen and worsen. She was unable to walk or even stand up and spent all of her time lying in bed. One night, the mom was downstairs watching TV when she suddenly heard thumping noises coming from her daughter's room. She ran up the stairs as fast as she could and opened the door. She was shocked to see her daughter out of bed moving around. The girl was jumping and dancing around the room as if she was healthy again. The mom then grabbed her camera and took pictures until it was out of film. When the girl finished dancing, the mother looked at her face and her eyes were in the back of her head and she was very pale. The mother then took her to the hospital and she was pronounced dead. She was devastated. After the funeral, the mother was looking through the photos and suddenly began shaking and dropped the photos. In the pictures, there is a ghostly hand holding the girl by the head, forcing her dead body to dance.
Oh my, this one honestly made me really sad for the girl and her mom. She was heartbroken when she saw her daughter dancing, but there was no life left at all, just an empty shell of what used to be her little baby. It is truly sad and disturbing, and seeing the picture of the girl dancing with the Grim Reaper was so creepy. Rest in peace, little dancing girl. Okay, now let's watch the next story, Dream of Stabs.
This story will absolutely blow your mind. There was a 24-year-old girl named Jade who kept having the same reoccurring dream every single night. In the dream, she would be murdered by the same man. She didn't know the man or recognize him, and had no idea why she was dreaming about being murdered by this man. She tried to ignore the dream, but every time she fell asleep, she would be murdered by this man. One night, Jade didn't want to sleep and decided to go on a blind date. The date was at this very fancy restaurant, and she was extremely excited. She got dressed, did her hair and makeup, and headed over to the restaurant. When she finally got there, her date hadn't shown up yet, so she ordered some wine and waited. After a couple of minutes, her date arrived. He was a handsome, tall, and polite young man, but something was just off. Jade felt like she knew him, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Then suddenly, her stomach dropped when she realized that it was the man who kept killing her in her dreams every night. Jade then suddenly tried to leave the table, but the man grabbed her arm and said, "Where are you going so soon? The night is only beginning."
That is so disturbing, going on a date with the person who is hunting your dreams, and especially in the way he was. This story is definitely not for the weak of heart. Did you see how he kept putting it in and out with no cares given? So scary. She was right to feel sick with that creepy smile he did at the end. Now the next two stories both take place at the amusement park, and people meet a tragic end. So let's start with the boy who was left by his parents, and they never returned.
This couple was killed in a very disturbing way. One day, a young boy went to an amusement park with his parents. They were riding rides all day and began to get hungry. So his parents went to get food and told him to wait at the table. The boy waited and waited, but they never came back. He began to worry and went to the place where his parents were getting food, but they weren't there. He then searched the whole park for them, but they were nowhere in sight. He began asking everyone if they'd seen his parents, but no one seemed to care. The boy then saw a game stand that was closed and decided to knock on the door. When he knocked, the door slowly cracked open. He then walked in and saw something truly disturbing. His mom and dad were nailed to a wall full of balloons dead. Their bodies were completely covered in darts. The boy then ran out and told one of the workers, and they called the police. When the police arrived, they had no idea what to make of it and had no idea who did it. The young boy was then put in a foster home, and not a day went by that he didn't think about how his parents looked on that wall.
In this situation, I honestly do not know what I would do. I hate this for the little boy, and I feel extremely sad for him. He lost both of his parents, and he has no other family to live with, and not to mention the trauma of how his parents died, and he never got any justice for their deaths. So it is a very disturbing case. But now, let's move on to the man whose hair led to his downfall.
This man was brutally killed by a carnival ride. In 2003, at the Island County Fair in Washington, the Super Loop 2 towered over the crowd, a giant looping ride owned by Paradise Amusements. 40-year-old Doug McKay, one of the company's co-owners, known for keeping the rides in perfect condition, and was known for being very careful, but that afternoon, something went terribly wrong. While the Super Loop was still running, Doug climbed onto the platform to apply lubricant to the ride's track. But as one of the cars came around the loop, Doug's long hair was suddenly caught in the moving mechanism. Before anyone could react, he was yanked violently into the air, lifted several stories high. Screams erupted as the ride continued its cycle, helpless to stop. Moments later, Doug's body was thrown from the machine, landing on a metal fence below. Families, children, and fairgoers watched in absolute horror. The cheerful sounds of the carnival fell silent. Doug McKay died instantly from his injuries. The ride was shut down immediately, but the fair continued that day, its music echoing through the grounds as if nothing had happened.
That ride was extremely dangerous, and the park needs to be sued. He didn't need to lose his life, even if his hair was so long that it got stuck. This just isn't fair and not okay. It is so disturbing how he fell onto the pole like that, and it must have scared everyone there. I can't imagine being there. Well, rest in peace to the man, and let's watch the next one.
The Don't F with Cats documentary on Netflix is about one of the most sickening cases ever, so let's explain it. In 2012, Luca Magnotta committed one of the most shocking crimes ever captured on video. He lured 33-year-old international student Jun Lin to his Montreal apartment, a man who thought he was meeting for a date. What followed was pure horror. Luca Magnotta murdered John Lynn, dismembered his body, and filmed the entire act, later uploading it to the internet under the title One Lunatic, One Ice Pick. He then mailed John Lynn's body parts to government offices and schools around Canada, sparking a massive international manhunt. For days, he taunted police online, relishing the attention as the world tried to track him down. Eventually, he was caught in Berlin, Germany, sitting in an internet cafe, calmly reading articles about himself. The crime shocked the world, not only for its brutality, but for its deliberate performance. Luca Magnotta had planned it all like a movie, obsessed with being noticed. In 2014, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. The case inspired the hit Netflix documentary Don't F with Cats, which followed a chilling online investigation that helped track him down. So if this sounds interesting to you, go watch the Don't F with Cats documentary now.
That man is so sick. Sending the film to schools and around the entire country is horrible. And sending it to Germany is crazy. I am glad they caught this madman. This was an interesting story that makes me want to see the documentary on Netflix. Well, that is all for today, peonies. Let me know what stories you want to see next. And also like and subscribe if you liked this video. See you soon and always stay safe.